I used to be a plain, ordinary film critic, but somehow weird stuff started happening around me. I found a childhood toy who rules an underground kingdom from out of my basement. I got a weird AI friend living in my TV. I fought a giant straight out of a kid's storybook and met a magical winter elf. But right now, I'm being forced to complete a checklist of TV and movie genres so I can save all of existence with the power of snarky film commentary. I'm telling you, we totally can. I'm pretty sure you can't. You're wrong.
Sorry I'm late. I just got the memo that we were meeting upstairs this week.
Yeah, when the cat's away, the dogs will play.
What are you two arguing about now?
Just thinks he can get one long advertisement and one comic book thing done in a single episode. And I'm telling you, we totally can. We just have to watch this Superman video. How would that help? And for that, we're gonna have to go retro and do a history segment on this episode. Not again.
Warning! Warning! Boring history lesson alarm.
In 1941, President Franklin Roosevelt introduced the Series E defense bond. By 1942, big stars were doing promotional events for them, as well as trailers in front of movies and on the radio. Almost every comic book published from 1942 to 1945 had at least one ad for war bonds.
Okay, what's this got to do with anything?
Well, after the war ended, the idea of savings bonds didn't. They were considered some of the safest investments around because they were backed by the Treasury Department. You'd think the idea of getting people to invest in them would be easy, because you're almost guaranteed to make money as long as you hold on to them until they reach maturity. But most people want that quick buck. Savings bonds, like most low-risk investments, are very low yielding.
Just tell them how it relates to Superman.
Oh, that's simple. Someone at the Treasury Department realized that television, which was just starting to enter every home in America by the mid-1950s, could be a very powerful propaganda tool. So they offered TV shows tax breaks if they would produce episodes to promote savings bonds. These episodes wouldn't air on TV, but rather in schools, at business training seminars, and other community events.
And what does this have to do with Superman?
In 1954, DC Comics had a huge image problem. They were under attack not only from the Senate Subcommittee on Juvenile Delinquency earlier that year, but from the general public as a response to Dr. Frederick Wertham's book, Seduction of the Innocent. At the same time, the Treasury Department wanted to get kids hooked on savings bonds while they were young.
Oh, Jess, real quick, before you continue, can you do me a favor? Get to the fucking point.
One of the most popular shows on TV from 1952 to 1958 was The Adventures of Superman, starring George Reeves.
You know how we've been talking about being concise and to the point? You could have just said that.
Without the banter, we'd lose half the audience. Our story begins with Clark Kent trying to get Lois Lane's attention by walking her home. Only she seems to be more interested in just about everything else they see along the way. Hot dogs, puppies, a jewelry store. Come on, it's time to face facts, Clarky boy. You're no Superman, and she's just not into you. especially once the burglar alarm goes off at the jewelry store. She goes from single woman ready for a night out on the town to hard-nosed big city reporter in about 30 seconds. Clark, on the other hand, runs off to an alley for some reason. Couldn't he just, I don't know, call the cops or something? I guess not. A few seconds later, Superman comes walking the other way. Wow, I wonder if Clark stopped to say hi, or tried to get an interview or something. One of the burglars gets away with a big bag of jewels. Superman comes in and sees his partner is still there. The guy says, "Look, my buddy got away, and I feel really bad about this. I'd like you to arrest me." Superman is like, "Well, you could have waited for Inspector Henderson to show up. I'm Superman. Every minute I waste on someone who willingly turns himself in is another life I could be saving." The guy says, "Sorry, but I only did all this because I'm really bad with money." Then Jamie Foxx started doing those sportsbook ads, and now I'm 200K in debt. Superman says, "Tell it to the cops. I think I hear Lois Lane getting thrown off of Lector Tower again." Superman hops out the window, and a few seconds later, Clark shows up. Lois Lane finishes jotting stuff down in her notebook. She says, "Sorry, Clark. I already got the story, and unlike these other reporters, I got a good look at the other thief. But I'm not going to tell Henderson until tomorrow morning. Perry will pay extra if this is a Daily Planet exclusive." Clark says, "Doesn't that pose a potential danger to the public? That doesn't seem very ethical to me."
Says the man who gets paid to write news stories about himself.
What are you talking about?
Clark Kent is Superman.
What? No way.
When was the last time you saw Superman and Clark Kent in the same place at the same time?
Spring of 1998 during the Superman Red, Superman Blue arc. Lois and Clark go back to the Daily Planet. Jimmy Olsen is showing off his new portable typewriter. Lois says, "Perry's kind of a cheapskate. How'd you get it?" Jimmy says, "Oh, this isn't property of the Daily Planet. It's mine." Lois says, "You can afford this on a cub reporter's salary?" Jimmy says, yes and no. When I was 10 years old, Mr. White made me a paperboy, but my mom made me put away about half my pay into savings bonds. At the time, I was angry because every time I passed the comic book rack at 7-Eleven, I had to choose between Batman or Superman. But now, I'm grateful because I have money for all kinds of things. Not only that, but if I use this typewriter while working for the Daily Planet in any capacity, I can write it off on my taxes and use the refund to buy more savings bonds. Clark says, "Wow, what a great way to make money. I met a guy last night who could have used that info." Lois asked, "When?" "I was with you all night." Clark said, "Did I say last night? I meant, Tuesday night." Now I'm confused because it wasn't Clark who met that guy. It was Superman.
Been trying to tell you.
Clark asked Jimmy where he gets his savings bonds. Jimmy says his elementary school used to sell stamps that could be traded in for bonds every Thursday. Clark says, "Hey, that's today. I've got an idea. Your next Jimmy's Tips column should be about savings bonds." Jimmy says, "Well, it does beat my original idea, how to cut your own hair, so okay. Lois says, you boys go work on that. I've got to go talk to Inspector Henderson, head of the Metropolis Special Crimes Unit, to tell him what I know about one simple robbery in a city of millions of people. But hey, I'm part of the city's intelligentsia, so I'll be in and out of the police station in about an hour. Clark says fine, meet us at Joe Schuster Elementary in an hour and a half. Lois says, oh, Jimmy, for plot reasons, I need to borrow your typewriter. Don't worry, I'll buy you a new ribbon when it runs out. The principal escorts Clark and Jimmy to the cafeteria where these Boy Scouts are collecting money for the savings bonds. They go, you're Clark Kent, the reporter that knows Superman. Clark says, well, I wouldn't say that I know him, but we've met a few times. Jimmy here is Superman's pal. One of the boys says, wow, if we could get Superman here, that would end our sales slump. Then Uncle Sam could afford to send us textbooks that will tell us how the Civil War ended. No spoilers, please, but I don't like this Lincoln guy's chances. Lois is about to leave when she gets a call. She hears this breathy voice and thinks it's Oswald Loomis calling again. Then he identifies himself as the jewelry store robber. He's willing to surrender, but only to her. She says, shouldn't you go to the police? He says, no, haven't you ever heard the term suicide by cop? She says, fine, just tell me where and when to meet. Then she calls Henderson to tell him she'll be a tad late. The principal explains the whole setup to Clark and Jimmy. You buy stamps. Once you've gotten $5 worth, you own a bond. That's considered a loan to the U.S. government that they can use for all sorts of things. Building schools, repairing roads, funding rebels in Argentina. Important government work. The Boy Scouts do most of the collections and bookkeeping, so the Treasury Department doesn't have to send in a special agent. Plus, they get one badge closer to earning their Eagle Scout rank. Now, let's talk about getting Superman down here for a meet and greet. Clark says, I'd like to, but we have a colleague who was supposed to meet us here for lunch, and she's not here yet. She has a propensity for getting tied to railroad tracks by burglars, getting thrown into the sea by smugglers, and, Jimmy says, remember last month when that scientist turned her into a gorilla? Clark laughs and says, yeah, good times. Good times. The principal says, call Perry White at the Daily Planet if we'll put your mind at ease. Perry says, she said she was running an hour behind schedule, so let me check. 9:15, do actual reporting. 11:15, troll Lana by posting new photos of me and Superman to Instagram. 11:30, get abducted by a thief from last night's jewelry store robbery. Clark says, well, I better go find Superman. See, I told you he's not Superman. If he was, why would he have to go looking for the Man of Steel?
Ever hear of a secret identity?
The robber had Lois tied up in his studio apartment. She says, why are you doing this? The guy says, because you can ID me. She says, but that's sort of like trying to dodge a 5-year sentence by kidnapping me, which is 10 to 15. He shows her his gun. She says, great, now it's aggravated kidnapping 15 to 20. This doesn't make any sense. He says, sure it does. Once I sell this stuff, I'll be loaded. Once I get down to South America, no extradition. Lois says, Do you really think you'll get that far with my blue-suited boyfriend looking for me? He says, wait, you and Henderson are... Oh, wait, you mean him. A smart girl like you would know that I could use you as a shield, right? Lois says, I'm not very smart. Toyman had that same plan 2 weeks ago, and Luthor the week after that. I fall for it every single time. The Robert says, that typewriter you brought is pretty cool. It's given me an idea on how to get my criminal associates to meet me down there. I can send them letters. Lois says, you do know the United States Postal Inspection Service is the oldest law enforcement agency in the country, right? He says, shut up and teach me how to type.
Couldn't he just play Typing of the Dead?
Back to the planet, Perry tells Clark that he told him everything he knows 2 scenes ago. There is no way to know where Lois went and who kidnapped her. Clark says, well, we could go to the prison and ask the former partner. I mean, sure, Henderson and the DA have probably already offered him a plea, but you never know. Big shot celebrity reporter Clark Kent might have better luck. Lois shows the guy how to make pictures with a typewriter. He says, cool, my turn. She takes the one she made out, folds it up into a paper airplane, and throws it out the window. She's no Kurt Swan, so even on the off chance Superman does find it, he'll be on the lookout for Paul Rubens. Back at the planet, Clark is pacing back and forth. He opens up the window and unbuttons his shirt for some reason.
To reveal his Superman costume. Duh.
I keep telling you, no. Perry comes in. Clark says my brilliant plan didn't work. I bet if my friend Cal, you know Cal, right? If he'd been there, he would have been a lot more convincing. Perry says it doesn't matter. Somebody found this litter on the street. I think you should look at it. Get even more fingerprints on it before we show this evidence to the cops. Clark looks at it and it's Lois's picture plus the guy's name and address. Clark says, I'm going on my lunch break. I'll be back in half an hour. Then he goes into the storeroom and... What the hell?
He changes his clothes into Superman. Big whoop.
I did not see that coming.
Jess, you have read almost every Superman comic written between 1986 and 2015. How did you not know this?
The robber guy gets a phone call. He says, thank you. Well, Miss Lane, that was the bank. My money's been deposited and I'm a wealthy man, so adios. Then he gets his gun and says, on second thought, you say goodbye first. Superman smashes through the door. The guy shoots at him until he's out of ammo. Superman says, why do people keep trying to do that? Unless they have kryptonite bullets, they aren't doing squat. The guy says, hey, I thought you were vulnerable to magic as well. Superman says, I am, but magic bullets won't be invented until 1963. Then he smashes the guy's gun and ties him up with a lamp. Lois says, if you had been just a second later, I would have been the subject of Jimmy's next true crime podcast. You know that? Superman says, yeah, well, you had better call Henderson. I have much more important things to do than comfort you after a rescue. Lois asks, like what? Superman says, teach kids about savings bonds. He goes to the elementary school and shows them the joys of saving money. He says, if you put a little away each week, You'll have a lot of money that you can use to buy things you want in the future. Not only that, the money you loan the government is used to provide basic human services. Which means, in your own way, you're just as much a hero as I am. Clark comes back. He says, "Sorry I'm late. I got word Superman was doing a PR appearance at school and I went to check it out." Lois says, "Well, you won't believe what happened to me." Clark says, "Yeah, I would. I just talked to Superman, remember?" Jimmy says, "Well, I think you'd be glad to know that the jewel thief's partner cooperated as much as he could with the cops. So he's getting probation and his record will be wiped clean as long as he stays out of trouble for 2 years." Clark says, "Oh yeah, I almost forgot. I got you guys something." And he hands them each a little coupon booklet.
No, those are savings stamp books.
Then why'd he get 4 of them?
I guess one for Barry.
I kinda doubt it. As an editor, he's probably getting 4 times Clark's salary.
Ma and Pa Kent?
All people buy savings bonds. They don't receive them. They wouldn't live long enough to collect.
Mr. Mixes Spitlick.
Gesundheit.
I kid, of course. The 4th one is for the sad sack at the beginning.
Verdict?
Yes!
Wait, you liked that?
I wouldn't say like exactly, but for a story about Superman selling savings bonds, it was a lot better than it had any right to be, especially that first act. The way he dealt with that guy at the beginning who felt remorse for what he had done shows us one of the traits of Superman that has been downplayed for the last 3 or 4 decades. His unrelenting, and some might even say bold and rebellious, compassion. His willingness to do what is kind, right, and just, instead of obeying the law when doing so would be dehumanizing and cruel. A man who realizes that truth and justice aren't necessarily compatible with the American way. What should be fought for is a better tomorrow.
Please tell me this was the only show that took advantage of this tax break.
If only. A lot of shows got in on the act. Father Knows Best, Lassie, The Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle, The Three Stooges, even Bugs Bunny. Shows that were big hits with 80s kids like me, including, Benson, WKRP in Cincinnati, and, Cheers?
I wouldn't exactly call those last 3 shows popular with 80s kids.
You know that? I know that. You better not let James Baker know that.
Ooh, I hate to break it to you guys, but according to the counterboard, this is only a comic book thing. You weren't able to get a badge in 2 categories in 1 episode.
Oh, yeah? Me and the Capitol make it happen.
What?
I had this DVD of vintage Captain Crunch ads set aside for just this sort of emergency. Our stories begin with, well, really there are too many stories here to summarize, but the disc itself can be broken up into 3 categories. The first half are Captain Crunch ads. These usually consist of Captain Crunch and his ragtag crew of children and weird pets spending 15 to 30 seconds getting themselves into some sort of sticky situation, and another 15 to 30 seconds coming up with some sort of goofy way to use Cap'n Crunch cereal to get themselves out of it. The coolest part is that it's not just the animated portion that has been preserved. Sometimes they've kept in the supplementary section. You know, the subsection of the ad reserved for the free prize inside, or the item you can order for 25 cents plus a bunch of box tops? For a retro media buff like me, that is just awesome. The next batch of ads featured Quisp and Quake. No matter what situation these two cereal mascots found themselves in, whether it be a sporting event, a world-ending crisis by a mad scientist, or an alien invasion, they would compete with each other over whose cereal was better and really bungle things up. The only thing that was not consistent was Quake as the mascot. In the early ads, he was a minor superhero who got his powers from eating Quake cereal at the center of the earth. When Quake refined its recipe, he became a cowboy superhero. The final section goes for some deep cuts from the Jay Ward archive, back from when they were producing hit shows like The Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle and Underdog. In the early days of television, TV shows didn't have as many commercials, but the ones that they did have were longer. Sometimes a big sponsor would even get to place one in the outro, or even control the entire ad break. This was the kind of relationship that General Mills had with The Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle. Some episodes would feature an extra Peabody and Sherman or Aesop's Fables that talked about Cheerios. But most of the time it was Bullwinkle, who, in spite of having done dozens of similar Cheerios spots, doesn't seem to remember that the product gives people superpowers. So Bullwinkle would try a sport. Then Rocky the Flying Squirrel, or later some unnamed human kid, would challenge him. They would eat Cheerios beforehand and succeed with no problem. Bullwinkle would try to do the thing and eat Cheerios at the same time, and succeed at neither of them. Now that I think about it, ever notice how so many old cereal ads seem to think they're promoting performance-enhancing drugs?
So, what do you mean?
I mean, Bullwinkle would not eat Cheerios and roll a natural one on everything. And don't even get me started on what Tony the Tiger was up to when I was a kid.
So now will Mr. Know-It-All render his verdict?
No!
The ads themselves are great. The video quality, not so much. But considering the ads are 50 to 60 years old, from an era before home media recordings, and half the products advertised don't even exist anymore, I'd say we're lucky to have them at all. My only problem was the price. I paid $15 for a DVD full of ads. Ones that had fallen into the public domain. Most of them are available in much lower quality here on YouTube. Not only that, to make matters worse, About a month after I bought my copy, I came across someone on eBay selling one along with a Captain Crunch Funko Pop and a set of those Soggies and Sogmaster figurines from the 80s for only $20.
If you had only bought that $5 savings bond back in 1983, you wouldn't have that problem.
Dude, I was 3 years old. When you're that age, a week feels like forever. 10 years to reach maturity? Forget about it.
So what are we doing next time?
Ooh, you're gonna hate this.
Why?
Well, let's just say it features Willie Ames.
Cool. We're doing the 80s Dungeons and Dragons cartoon.
Oh, you wish. It's Bible in time. We're doing Bible Man.
No. First rule of the channel. No religious propaganda.
Hey, don't blame me. I'm not making us do this.
No, no, no. No way. It's against my religious beliefs.
Would you feel better if I agreed to watch it with you?
Matt, buddy. Look, I don't believe in hell. But if I have to go there, I'm taking you with me. If you liked this video, please hit like and subscribe to see this channel grow and get your name on the credits. Visit patreon.com/PerryEraFilms and become a patron today.